So what does having a diagnosis mean for growth? Hi, so today we're going to talk about what it means to work towards growth with a diagnosis. Disclaimer, I am not a medical professional. Everything I'm going to say right now, if you make any changes from anything I'm about to say, you should discuss with your appropriate medical professionals. Everyone's circumstance is different and individual. So none of this is a hard and fast rule, but some thoughts from my 4,000 plus hours of working with people with a variety of diagnoses and disorders. So when I talk about diagnoses and disorders, I'm talking about neurodevelopmental differences of disorder like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, but also mental health conditions or diagnoses like clinical depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, lots of mental health conditions like that, but also physical health conditions, and they all affect growth in different ways. Okay, so growth looks very different when you have these conditions at play, right? And when I work with a client that has different conditions, the pace and expectation should be very different. But there's something I kind of want to outline to a lot of people that I see out in the world, something I see a lot on social media that I kind of want to call out a little bit here. And it's, if you have a diagnosis of some sort, and I do, okay, I'm diagnosed dyslexic. I have not been diagnosed in anything else. I've certainly had other neurodevelopmental conditions queried, if I'm honest, like ADHD and potentially autism. But I have a dyslexia diagnosis, and I'm kind of making this video to kind of say that like a developmental difference in your mind does not mean you can't do things full stop. I used to write articles and edit articles in my digital marketing job for years, okay? And I'm a dyslexic, right? So I innately struggle with writing. I struggle with like reading a lot. I struggle always writing stuff that makes sense. When I'm writing, it's tough, it's challenging. I find it frustrating. I feel self-doubt about my writing from time to time. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. And there's something that I really see online that I think is so insidious when we think about conditions that people have in the world. You know, we talk about ADHD a lot, autism, other kind of mood-related disorders, whereas the mood-related disorders, it's kind of the low motivation towards change and action is kind of part and parcel of it. I'm looking mainly towards like clinical depression and anxiety-related disorders. But the neurodevelopmental self-diagnoses I see online, I'm kind of pointing out today a little bit. So, you know, if you struggle to pay attention and focus on things, and you suspect ADHD, please talk to a medical professional. But even if you do have ADHD, like I promise you there are things you can do. You might not feel like you can control your attention or manage your attention, which is, in my understanding, ADHD, that it's more a challenge of managing attention instead of not having enough attention and focus. Often people with ADHD get obsessively hyper-focused on some things and cannot focus on other things. This is something that can be worked on. If you have a condition, it doesn't mean certain corridors of your life should be closed off. And this is a certain logic that I see with a lot of people that self-diagnose but also have conditions, okay? You can still lead like a fulfilling, healthy life in a lot of ways with neurodevelopmental differences, okay? If I'm an example of that, I'm genuinely happy. I've gone through a lot of really tough times. I'm not gonna lie. I've faced a lot of challenges. I've made mistakes, but I think it's kind of a mindset shift for y'all that like, if you have a condition and you struggle at something, that actually just means you have to kind of put a bit more work into / approach things differently. So if you have a different way of processing the world, a different way of understanding the world, if you have autism, which is a real condition and super valid, if you get like really sensorily overwhelmed by certain lights, certain sounds, you struggle to process certain kinds of information, that like doesn't mean that your life has to be tiny, right? Like tiny, and you not go anywhere and not do anything, right? You can still try. You're going to be from a different place to everyone else, and a lot of people compare themselves. Comparison is the thief of joy. Do not do that. It sucks. But the systems we live in, the larger contexts we find ourselves in social media, constantly lead to comparison. So we're going to do that. But you only need to be in competition with your previous self. The person you are right now, okay? Bob down the road, who's a amazing CEO, and he's made gabillion pounds. You and him have very different cards to play in life, and you're also probably good at different things, and that's a good thing. We all have a variety of valuable skills, but don't count yourself out. Do not do that, because I'm looking at you right here. You are valuable, okay? You have skills you can provide. You have qualities that will enrich people around you. And if you have autism, you have ADHD, you have bipolar, you have whatever, borderline personality disorder, schizotypal disorder, there's something you can do to grow. There's a step you can take forward from who you are now, even in the direction you struggle in. And some arguments I've heard against this are like, well, you're just doing kind of more damage to yourself. Why put yourself in that situation? What's the point? This points to actually like an emotional hopelessness, right? Which I see with a lot of people that are diagnosed with these conditions. Any kind of condition. Multiple sclerosis, heart tremors, hypertension, diabetes. There's despair in all of it, right? There's hopelessness in a lot of it. The world you can access feels smaller and you feel more vulnerable. And those feelings are very real, okay? But that doesn't mean you have to give up. If you have ADHD and you struggle to focus, honestly, I've seen a lot of value in people with ADHD, like getting therapy or ADHD coaching. And they help you process the emotions and the challenges around doing the thing. So I make this video to say, and if there's anything you take away from today, that struggle is the point of life, okay? You're going to struggle. I struggle. We all struggle. The point is to find the meaning in the struggle. And if you struggle a lot because you have developmental differences, or you have dyslexia like I do, or you have dyscalculia, so you struggle with numbers, or you have dyspraxia, so you struggle with coordination, there's things you can still provide of value. I promise. The world is not as doom and gloom as our social media overlords would like us to believe, because there's places for us. There's hope for all of us, okay? You're valuable, and I love you. And there's also very real struggles that we all face, and we deserve to have those sat with, and we deserve to have people care about us and listen to us. And if you do not have that right now, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's devastating, and that sucks. You deserve to be understood, okay? You deserve to be listened to. You deserve to have space. But it grinds my gears, man, when people give up on themselves. If you give up on yourself, let's look at the feeling. Let's look at like the despair. Let's look at the real stuff you're feeling, because the action feels too heavy right now, okay? So this is a big part of how I work. There's the goal over here and the thing we want to do over here. And there's this huge wave of stuff. All of these other feelings that are in the way that you don't even know they're yet, right? In my opinion, when we process the feelings to get lighter, and then you just want to do the thing anyway, okay? And if you don't know how to do the thing, then we can bring in practical steps, operationalizing the whole process and breaking tasks down and understanding how to do that, which is also a key part of coaching. But if there's a huge emotional wall, if there's a huge internal wall, we have to address that if you want to grow. And that wall is often a lot bigger if you have a diagnosis of some kind, because you think, what's the point? I've got such a bigger climb than everyone else. But the reality is, if you make a good few steps along wherever you are on your own personal mountain, you will feel more meaning. You'll be like, look at what I did. I went from down here and I got here. It doesn't matter if Jeff's not even on the damn screen. I went from here to here. Even though I got ADHD, even though I got autism, even though I got bipolar, even though I got whatever. Okay? And that's worth celebrating. Because if you're better than you were yesterday, even if you're worse, okay, and you acknowledge that you're worse, that's emotional work too, okay? Doing that kind of work is gonna give you reason to suffer. And we all need a reason to suffer right now, because I don't know if you guys looked around, but a lot of people feel like they're suffering. So, to summarize, a diagnosis in relation to growth looks like really being where you're at, minimize the comparisons, get them out of here. Growth is possible. You may not feel like it's possible. You may feel hopeless, a very common emotion attached to having a diagnosis. But forward is possible. It's going to feel really hard for those who struggle with unaliving ideations. But it is possible if you look at the feelings, if you're really heard and understood. Because, like, what's the point in anything if nobody cares about what you're saying? Right? I think a lot of people feel that. And get support. Get support. You need support. We all need support. We all need each other. So if you've got a diagnosis, process your ego a little bit. Because your ego is going to be like, no, I don't want to bother people. I don't want to be an inconvenience to others. You're actually just inconveniencing your ability to lead a fulfilling life. So I'm going to love you and leave you. I've been Will. You've been wonderful. Will Thunder Talks. Thunderhawk Coaching. Forever.